What's up, guys? Leyton here for UFC Gambling Addicts. Just before we get into this breakdown, I'd like to say we're doing a giveaway again. Every card we do a giveaway. It's going to be a $100 gift card for the UFC store this time because it's a pay-per-view event. So smack your comments down. It's free to try and win that. Also, I'd like to just go over a few betting losses that I had for the Czech Republic card that actually weren't losses. Most people listening to this are going to be, experienced in UFC, whether that's the full card every week or just the main card, or, you're getting better at predicting prelims and all that kind of stuff. But most people listening to this wouldn't be the level of degenerate I am when it comes to gambling. So just take a look at all these parlay losses for the recent card just gone with the Czech Republic. They actually weren't losses. As you can see, Jan Blachowicz is my final piece for all of these losing parlays that you can see on your screen. And with that, because I was heading into the main event with £700 or so, £750 riding on Jan Blachowicz. With that, if you have that kind of power heading into your last part of your parlay, it's always smart to cover bet the opponent. So, as you can see, all of those parlays are losing parlays. But when you have the same thing to be the final piece to your parlays with that much profit riding into that last fight, you're able to cover bet. And as you can see on your screen, I did cover bet with Thiago Santos and still finished the night roughly with over £200. So, for most people who aren't experienced at betting, this is a beautiful way to put yourself at an advantage because 9 times out of 10, the bookies have the advantage. So if you ever get into this position where your parlays are finishing on the main event, it's always worth doing exactly what I've just shown you. So, yeah, enjoy the breakdown, put down your picks for the giveaway, and, yeah, I appreciate you all. Peace.
And welcome to episode 21 of UFC Addicts. My name is Aaron, and I'm here as always with my co-host Leyton to break down the UFC card. This week it's UFC 235 from Las Vegas, Nevada. John Jones and Anthony Lionheart-Smith is the headliner, also co-headlined by Tyron Woodley and Kamaru Usman. I'm here as always, as I said, with my co-host Leyton. What up, buddy?
What's up, bro? Okay, so before we get into this card, we'll quickly speak about the co-main and the main of the card we just saw in Czech Republic.
Yes.
Stefan Struve, one of your favorite guys.
I'll take it from here with Struve. So, yeah, obviously shouldn't have really been the co-main event, but with these European cards, sometimes they're kind of in a spot where they got to put someone there. And Stefan Struve is probably my favorite fighter in the UFC, or was for a time being before he kind of went through this little lackadaisical streak towards the end here. And I picked against him, I think, for a first time in his UFC career, to be honest with you. So more times than not, I've gotten bit by it. I picked against him for a first-round KO, and that overhand right to start out, almost nailed that exactly. With De Lima nailed him, but then De Lima, for whatever reason, thought he should hang out in Struve's guard, hang out. I think that really ended up tiring him out quite a bit. And then second round, Stefan Struve did what I kind of anticipated he had forgotten he had, which was submission skills. And he got on top, used those arms, and arm triangled De Lima pretty easily. It's one thing to pick against your favorite fighter. It's another thing when he decided to announce he's probably retired now. I mean, he's had heart issues throughout his career. Being a giant, he has heart issues regardless. So, yeah, he seems to be pretty sure he's done. As much as I'd love to see him fight again, I'm totally fine with that also.
I mean, he was on like a 3 or a 4 fight losing streak.
And this fight by no means was blowing the doors off good. I mean, he was struggling quite a bit there for a while, and De Lima just kind of remained exposed on the ground and then gassed himself out. But
I mean, we said on the podcast, we said, we're picking Lima because of how disappointing Struve's been. But if Struve wins, we're happy for him. Credit to him. And he done that and, put his gloves in the middle of the octagon and retired. So fair play to him.
Yeah, and I really respect him being honest with it and just being like, I'm probably retired, because that's what most people should say after retiring in the octagon. Because, I mean, I honestly hope he does stay retired, though.
Yeah. I mean, he's gone out with a win. That's how you want to go out. You know, you look at BJ Penn and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, Struve does have some pretty serious health issues he has to take into account. So just a little bit about that. And I'm back to my ways in main events. So don't worry, everybody. I'm back to my ways of perfectly calling the opposite. The black magic, the ultimate fade, whatever you'd like to refer to it as. It's just, it's there. So
you have to give credit to Santos, though. Like, we expected him to come out
to me in that order.
Yeah, like he came out so preserved. It was like a kicking battle. Like both guys just trading kicks. And then we got to the third round and Jan just thought, you know, this is not what I expected. You know, we could say he avoided big shots, but there wasn't many big shots put out there from Santos, you know? So credit to Santos.
He was lulled into a false sense of security. I was frankly expecting Jan to try to wrestle a little more. He never really seemed to.
Yeah.
He got comfortable on the feet. I think that looking at the game plan, hindsight's 2020, but I think the game plan was get him comfortable on the feet, and then in the third and later start to explode. And he did. His first explosion, absolutely nailed it, and we were feeling good through the first couple rounds. You know, and I had a few parlays that were capped with Jan because I decided to tempt the fate and put a main event in my capper for parlays because I'm insane. So sure enough, I had you know, some decent results, but overall ended up missing out on a few of my parlays due to a few different fighters, but Jan was one of them. So Santos, a guy who I've picked against every time on this podcast. I apologize. Actually, I didn't pick against him.
Legit guy,
I didn't pick against him against Manuel. I definitely picked him.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm definitely impressed. I thought overall that was a really solid card. More than well worth getting up at 11 a.m. for.
Oh, man. I enjoyed it. Great card for me.
Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to this card. As I will probably say for every single card we ever break down. I can't imagine ever looking at a card of 13 UFC bouts where I'm saying I'm not excited for any of this.
Yeah.
So once again,
let's jump in.
Let's jump in. You want to lead us off here?
Yep. Okay, so start of the card, we have Polyana Viana versus Hannah Ciffers. And I'll be breaking down Hannah Ciffers. Okay, so she comes into this fight 0-1 inside the UFC. Her debut was a few months ago against Maycee Barber. She lost that fight. She didn't only lose that fight, she got absolutely destroyed. Maycee Barber just wrestled her. The ground and pound was vicious. Go rewatch that fight if you haven't seen it, because it's one of those finishes, like those ground and pound finishes where it's just like so horrible to watch. You just want the ref to stop it. It's just
Maycee Barber is no joke. 20 years old.
Yep, real young.
That's a future of female fighting is Maycee Barber.
But Hannah Ciffers, I don't really know what she is. She looks like a wrestler, but seeing what I saw in her debut, I mean, I know how good Maycee Barber is, and we saw that, but Hannah Ciffers was just so unimpressive, and that finish, it was just horrible. Her head was just getting caved into the canvas. It was bouncing around. In my eyes, she's a showcase fight. You know, Maycee Barber, welcome to the UFC. Look at that performance. I think we see something similar. But I'm actually going to take a submission this time. I'm going to take Polyana via submission in the first.
All right. Fair enough. I will be breaking down Polyana Viana. Great name. Very marketable. You can take that to mean what you want in a female fighter, but she's very marketable. I'll put it that way. 10-2 overall in her career. Most of those coming by submission. She's 1-1 in the UFC, losing her last fight by decision to JJ Aldrich. And in that fight with JJ, she was pretty badly outstruck. And her striking was really exposed. She really leaves her head up there and hands down at points. She strikes like a really good grappler who's learned to strike. She did kind of put, Aldrich in a little trouble when she was able to get to grappling. She got close to Uma Plata at one point. But really overall, like, she ended up being pretty solidly unanimous UD'd by JJ Aldrich. And there's no real shame with that. Aldrich has been training with Rose Namajunas, and she has a pretty solid camp out there in Denver. So it's paying dividends here. Ciffers, I would look at as a similar fighter to Aldrich, kind of matchup-wise, but skill-wise, much less than Aldrich. So I kind of would agree with you. It's a little bit of a showcase fight, perhaps, for Polyana, unless she's done absolutely nothing to improve the holes in her game, in which Ciffers, I believe, is a kickboxer, if I remember correctly, from her fight against Macy. Mm-hmm. I believe that's what they said she was, but I could be wrong. But I just think that this fight, if it gets to the ground, if it gets to a clinch, Ciffers is going to be in a lot of trouble. And I do see her getting it to the ground. I think Polyana could even pull guard, but I don't think she's going to have to. Mm-hmm. She just can't go in there and brawl. I don't think that would be smart. I think Ciffers' only chance is for it to be that kind of stand-up kind of fight. Otherwise, if it's at all a grappling affair, Polyana's got this. And I think she's going to be successful in getting into the ground. And I'm going to say a first-round submission as well for Polyana. I think she definitely showed that when she gets you to the ground and gets your back, she's going to sub you. Mm-hmm. So I see her either subbing or pounding her out. But I think either one's going to happen in the first round. I think she's going to, unless she looks to strike, I think she'll look for the takedown pretty quickly. So we agree to start out the card, both in method and round. Going to the odds here, you got to imagine they're with Polyana. And they are open at minus 335. She's now a minus 360 favorite.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Plus 270 for Ciffers. I just don't see Ciffers ever being much closer in a fight than that. She didn't exactly look like she belonged there.
Yeah, I don't think she's cut out for the UFC. I'll be surprised if, she has another fight after this.
Polyana is a tough second test. So Polyana, really, I think they're anticipating her looking better against Aldrich and kind of starting to promote her a little bit. So I do agree there's a showcase fight here going on. Yeah. So, we agree. And we're on to one of my favorite fighters here in the second fight at 135 with Marlon Chito Vera and Frankie Saenz. Mm-hmm. I will be breaking down Chito Vera. He is 11-5 overall with 3 TKOs and 6 submissions. So really a well-rounded fighter, especially when I think most people think more of his kind of kickboxing and stand-up than they do of his ground game, but more submissions than KOs here. So he's 6-4 now in the UFC with some wins over Brian Kelleher, Brad Pickett as being his most notable. Other than that, not a whole bunch of super well-notable fights. He beat Guido Canetti in his last fight, in a fight that a lot of people were picking Guido for, thinking that the wrestling was going to give Vera some problems, and it has in the past in some fights. But it seems to be a part of his game. He's shoring up more and more as his takedown defense, his wrestling overall, and also he's becoming more of a threat off his back. So needless to say, I really like this kid. He's only 25, which I find pretty shocking. He really carries himself mature in there and seems like he's been around for a long time. I think he's really well-rounded. I don't think he's an easy fight for anyone in this division. And while, like I said, while he has more submissions, I think his stand-up has been looking sharper and sharper also. Mm-hmm. And he does good work to the body and legs, and I see him really working Saenz' body quite a bit in this fight, actually. Maybe not throwing as many kicks, but maybe knees, getting into the clinch at points when he's having to defend a wrestling and making him really think about going for those takedowns. He's able to show with the Canetti in this last fight that he can deal with a good grappler who has some success early. Guido won the first round, and the Vera that came out for the second round looked like a different fighter and absolutely overwhelmed Canetti and got the finish. It was like Canetti had no idea what hit him. So again, he really shows he comes back from adversity. I just really, really like a lot of the aspects of Cheeto's game. I like his movement. I like the length he uses. And I think he has a full performance here against kind of a flat-footed wrestler in Frankie Saenz. Saenz is in a lot of close fights, though, so he doesn't exactly go in there and get the doors blown off him. But I think Vera makes a statement here and gets a second-round TKO. I look for him to be a little quicker, have a little quicker of a start here. And this would be his third straight fight with a second-round finish if he gets it here. Fun fact.
Nice.
So I'll take Vera for the second-round TKO.
Nice. Okay, so Frankie Saenz comes into this fight 5-3 inside the UFC. Not really any notable wins. He did beat Yuri Alcantara back in 2015, where he was a plus 700 underdog.
Whew.
So
that's when Yuri was good.
Yeah, exactly. Back in 2015.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really see Frankie outscoring Marlon on the feet. You know, if he wants to win this fight, he's going to have to grapple. That's pretty much how most people said Marlon would lose his last fight. I was at the Marlon Vera versus Brad Pickett in London a couple years ago. And once again, Marlon Vera was getting beat in that fight, and he just found a way to win. Against Canetti.
He's just one of those fighters.
Exactly. You know, if there's one thing that Marlon has, you know, he doesn't give up. He has no quit in him. And if he does lose, chances are he's gone the distance and he's bloodied up and, you know, still no quit. So yeah, Frankie Saenz, he's going to want to wrestle. We've seen Marlon can wrestle. We've seen his ground game. And I pretty much agree with everything you've said. He does improve every fight. And definitely, you know, the best ability that Marlon has is there's no quit in him. Even when he's losing, he finds a way. He's not someone I pick too much. I know you pick him more than what I do. But yeah.
Oh, that's certainly true.
Yeah, how can you go against him in this one? So yeah, I'm going to take a decision win for Marlon Vera.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I feel like I've done a good job of convincing you that he's legit.
I feel like good, man. His
you really had some
as well. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's composure. He reminds me a lot of kind of like a little bit of Max Holloway in a way, with how he carries himself, with how he fights. I think he's got a little better submission, a little worse stand up than Max. Mm-hmm. So, but they both are these 25-year-olds who carry themselves like they're 50. They've been in the UFC since their early 20s. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's just a huge value to be able to have your growing pains happen in the biggest organization. And it will result sometimes in something like a 6-4 record for Marlon Vera. He has 4 losses in the UFC. Mm-hmm. I was kind of, I mean, I'm surprised by that, but he doesn't fight like a guy who's 60% of the UFC. Mm-hmm. At least not to me. And it's a similar reason I like a lot of these other fighters that get to start over here early and take the proper progression in their competition. I think going from Guido to Frankie, it makes complete sense. It's a similar type of fighter, but it is a step up.
It is, yes.
Frankie is 5-3. That's no joke at all. And he's a good wrestler. And if Vera can show that he can get past the good wrestlers with his skill set, he can get by just about anybody then. So
and what are the odds
I'm looking forward to the fight. The odds open at -180 for Cheeto Vera. They've gone to -220. So the fair favorite. Yeah, plus fair. 180 for Frankie. I like the respect Frankie's getting at plus 180 actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds fair. I have no disagreements with those odds. That's fair.
Yeah, both these odds so far have been pretty spot on for the fights. So you want to move us forward to the third fight of the night?
Okay, so we have Gina Mazany versus Macy Chiasson. And I'll be breaking down Gina. Okay, so she comes into this fight 1-2 inside the UFC. She's another female where she's looking at getting cut if she loses this. She's 1-2. She's not that impressive. She's going to have, she's not going to have the height advantage. Macy's going to have that. Macy's going to have the reach advantage. How does Gina win this? Once again, I'm pretty much looking... It's a little bit like Frankie Saenz and Marlon Vera, really, in my eyes. I think Gina has to, just make it pure dirty. Like a Brian Barberena performance. Like, just, outstrike Macy, get in the clinch, use the elbows, the knees, a few takedowns here and there. Because, at distance, she's not going to do much against Macy. She's at a height and reach disadvantage. Yeah, it's gonna be a good, decent upset if Gina can pull this off, but I just don't see it happening. I believe Macy was even slight underdog on the Ultimate Fighter a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And yeah, just massively impressed. I took her that night. She looked great. I liked her persistence in the takedown, looking for submissions. So yeah, I can't take Gina Mazany. If anyone is, please tell me why. But yeah, how can Gina do this? She's going to have to make it dirty. But yeah, I'm going to take a submission for Macy. I'm going to take it in round 2. Round 2
All
sub
right.
for Macy.
Fair enough. I will be breaking down Macy Chiasson. I will let you guys peek behind the curtain a little bit here. I've been getting Gina Mazany and Jillian Robertson mixed up. And it's caused me to pick against Jillian in a couple fights. Not this last one, but before that, I picked against Jillian thinking she was Gina Mazany. So, sorry about that.
How can you do that to the Savage?
I don't know, but for whatever, I think they were both on the Ultimate Fighter. They both have pink hair. They're both white ladies. I don't know. I screwed up.
One just has amazing jiu-jitsu, and one is just so unimpressive.
Yeah, one is not good at it much. Yeah, I agree. I don't know how I did that. But anyways, Macy Chiasson, 3-0 with 2 subs. She beat Pani Kianzan in the Ultimate Fighter finale by rear naked choke. Mm-hmm. And that was at 145, I believe.
Yes, it was.
So she looked pretty impressive through her run on the show. Let's see how she does with the weight cut. I think that's Gina's other hope, is that the weight cut saps too much out of Macy, who looked like a pretty decent size 145. So I think she'll be fairly large for the division. Mm-hmm. So we'll see if she's able to make the weight cut appropriately and it doesn't sap her energy too much. So that's, I think, one of the few hopes for Gina here, honestly. She's still pretty green in terms of MMA at 3-0, but her ground game looks extremely strong, and her stand-up didn't look bad either. I think that Gina has shown in the past she struggles with big grapplers, and Sarah McMahon subbing her in 1 minute with an arm triangle, and I expect Macy to have pretty similar result, and I'll agree with you. I'll take a second-round submission, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's in the first, but I don't know how you're taking Macy here, or not taking Macy here. Mm-hmm. Gina is the second largest underdog on this card, too. Yeah. I won't reveal the largest underdog yet in case people are wondering who that is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Gina, she's a plus 300 underdog. So Macy this is her second fight in the UFC. Her bantamweight debut is minus 400.
Yeah, so that seems fair to me. I mean, Gina is just massively unimpressive, and if she can pull this win off, if anyone's got her in a double, like Mazany and Jones, like a small double, then fair enough. But it's a long shot, man. That's a long shot.
Yeah, I mean that's I agree. I feel pretty comfortable taking Macy, and I feel comfortable in that price too. I think that's pretty spot on again.
Yep. Okay, so moving on to Edman, the Golden Boy, and the actual Golden Boy, because Austin Arnett goes by the Golden Boy, and he's not the Golden Boy. So
the self-proclaimed Golden Boy.
Yeah, Edman, the Golden Boy, Shahbazyan versus Charles Kid Dynamite Byrd, and I'll be breaking down Edman. Okay, so he comes into this fight 1-0 inside the UFC. Previously fighting on the Contender Series, where he got a pretty nice finish. His debut in the UFC was against Darren Stewart. It was pretty impressive, but at the same time, kind of unimpressive. And most people listening to this now are thinking, wait, what do you mean? What do you mean it was unimpressive but impressive? Okay, so what I mean by that is, you look at that fight, and the first round, second round, great. Edman went out with a game plan. He was very persistent in grappling, consistent in grappling, and the takedown. It was there for 10 minutes. He looked great. He's a big boy. He's a strong grappler. The negative is, come the third round, the game plan was still there. It looked good, but his energy went completely. He was zapped. He was just gassed out. He still got the win. It was a split win. I'm not too sure how it was split. Maybe because, you know, the majority of his game plan, you know, he was kind of holding on to Darren Stewart a lot against the fence. You can look at it either way. You can go, you know, this guy is very hungry, he's young, he looks really strong, he's consistently grappling. Or you can look at it and go, I can see what he's trying to do, he's not having too much success with it, and come the third round, he's tired. So it can go either way. It's whatever you like. Personally, I think he's very talented. He's young. He's very persistent in what he's trying to do.
Yeah, and I think another thing, not to interrupt, but I remember when we were breaking down that fight, and I was breaking down Edman for that fight, I remember pointing out he had a ton of finishes, and they were early, most of them. And being a young guy finishing guys early, I remember, I believe I predicted a decision win for Shahbazyan, and I bet on it, because, and I remember in my breakdown saying it was likely going to, if it went to decision, he may be kind of in a situation where he was up 2 rounds and kind of running out of gas in the third.
Perfect. You got it spot on.
And and I mean, I just think, not because I'd watched a lot of, I'd watched a lot of tape on him, but it wasn't exactly from the tape. It's just from that prototype of a young finisher. When they get to UFC, they tend to face a decision in their first fight. I don't have the exact numbers. That's just a notion I kind of get with a lot of these quick finishers. As they get to UFC, and all of a sudden, you know, we saw with Klidson, De Abreu, the guy who broke his nose in the last fight. You know, didn't look that impressive, of course not. But he had finished or been finished in every single one of his fights until he got to UFC, and then sure enough, he went to a decision. I not only broke that down, I bet on that. That's one of the bets I actually got right. So again, you see these guys who finish. It's not that easy to finish in the UFC.
When the competition comes up, you're faced with different things you haven't seen.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you. So go back to your breakdown with Edman.
Perfect. So yeah, you know, you can look at it either way. You know, he's doing the right things, or you can kind of see how his game plan was spot on, but because there was no end product to his game plan, i.e. a choke or a ground and pound, very tired come the third round. You know, styles make fights, and MMA math does not work. Charles Byrd lost to Darren Stewart. Edman beat Darren Stewart. MMA math does not work. Here we see 2 grapplers. Okay, so this stylistically is a better fight for Edman, in my opinion, because I like how good his grappling is. Charles Byrd likes to grapple too. Having said that, Edman hits quite hard. Charles Byrd will stand with you until he can grapple. I don't see this going the distance. I'm going to take Edman, and I'm going to take him by a round 1 TKO.
Wow. Interesting.
I think it's over quick.
So you think what do you think happens?
I just think they're going to go in there knowing they both want to grapple, and I see Charles Byrd getting clipped and Edman getting a nice finish. Okay.
All right. I will be breaking down Charles Kid Dynamite Byrd. He is 10-5 out of Fortis MMA, which is one of my favorite camps currently around right now. Diego Ferreira fights out of there. He looked excellent this past weekend. Yeah, he missed weight by a pound, but he looked great. A few other guys that fight out of there: Sean Spencer, Damon Jackson. So some pretty decent guys who fight in some organizations pretty high up. And of his 10 wins, he has 3 KOs and 5 submissions. So his grappling certainly is pretty strong, but he's actually a pretty decent kickboxer as well. One of my problems is that he really likes his kickboxing a lot, and that's what got him into trouble against Darren Stewart. and that's why he got TKO'd. He did not go to his strength, where he clearly had the advantage, and maybe he gets a little wake-up call about using his full MMA plan a little more, because he definitely has it. He is 35 years old now, so Kid Dynamite is getting up there. And also, he's only a 5'10 middleweight, so I don't know how tall Shahbazyan is, but I'll assume that he'll have the height and reach advantage. I don't have the breakdown in front of me, but I'll assume he does. And yeah, I just think that Byrd had a really good game plan going into the Stewart fight, and he just decided to abandon it in the second round. And got his back against the cage and got TKO'd. And it was like a clean shot. It didn't knock him out cold or anything like that. It was just a clean shot that put him down for sure, though. Byrd is a Dana White Contender Series veteran, as is Shahbazyan, I believe. So we got a battle of a few guys from my series, and Byrd had submission finishes in both those fights. He also finished John White, Mike Tyson by rear naked choke in his debut. So I think that the key to this fight is for Byrd to really rely on his grappling and wrestling. I think if he relies on it to stay on the feet, I think he could have a lot of trouble against Shahbazyan. I think that it's really important that he doesn't look to trade here. I think it's important he looks to push the pace, though, and test Edman's cardio, because that is the key to victory with Edman, I think. It's to get him tired and then expose it. And if he gets him tired, that could lead him to the submission much more easily. I'm going to take Byrd, and I'm going to take him to get a late submission or decision. So,
okay.
I guess I'll make a choice here. I'll say decision for Byrd. And it's going to take the O from his fellow Contender Series winner. So I think it's a good fight. Super close. I can totally understand either side here, but I think that Byrd is going to kind of use kind of that veteran savvy and be smart in this fight, and look at where he can win the fight and where he should take the fight. And it's all about pushing the pace. I think he has a cardio advantage. And, that's how I see the fight going.
And what are the odds?
They opened at minus 208 for Shahbazyan, plus 170. They have shifted to a basic pick'em at plus 110 for Charles Byrd, minus 140 for Shahbazyan.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I'd go, perfect scenario would be like a plus 120 for Byrd, minus 120.
Well, on some sites I see minus 131, plus 110. So I think by fight night, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Byrd as the betting favorite.
Yeah, those odds sound perfect to me as well.
Yeah,
that's like 4 fights in a row now. Where the odds that's like 4 fights in a row now where the odds are just pretty legit. Pretty spot on.
There's not. Yeah, I mean the nice part about when the odds are spot on are that they're correct. The part that sucks for people like us is that we don't have that in where we really see an opportunity to maybe make some bank. I mean, I always go back to Jordan Rinaldi versus the now bare knuckle fighting
Jason Knight.
He signed with bare knuckle fighting.
Yeah. Has he had a fight yet?
No, I think it happens in April. And that's the organization that did pay their fighters. There's another bare knuckle league that didn't pay their fighters.
Man, when you think about it, though,
another day.
Jason Knight, that's just meant to be. He is such a redneck. He is supposed to do that.
Diaz, baby. Hick Diaz. He should embrace the fuck out of that nickname.
Okay,
all right.
So moving on.
Here's a fun one next. Would you like to lead off, or do you want me to?
I'll lead it off.
Okay,
baby. So Diego Sanchez versus Mickey Gall. Okay, so including Diego's Ultimate Fighter fights, he comes into this fight with a record of 20 wins and 11 losses inside the UFC. So, that's quite a few. It's quite a few.
He's the original Ultimate Fighter winner.
He joined the UFC in 2005.
Ultimate Fighter winner number 1.
He fought at middleweight.
Go ahead. Sorry.
He fought at middleweight, welterweight, lightweight, and featherweight.
He fought Kenny Florian at middleweight for the Ultimate Fighting Championship, Ultimate Fighter. He fought Kenny Florian.
He's done it all. He's been there. He's done 4 divisions. He's had over 30 fights, and he's still kicking on. Okay, so Diego Sanchez of recent, because that's the most important. Finished pretty viciously by Matt Brown with the elbow over the top. Completely flopped him. It was pretty vicious. Looking at his last fight, you know, he still has some in him. He's pretty there. Pretty much ran through Craig White. Just gave him a real lesson. I think
after he kissed him.
Yeah, I was about to say that kiss on the nose really set him off. So dumbest moment of 2018. Yeah, MMA moment. Right so there. If Mickey Gall can just give him a little kiss at weigh-ins,
don't kiss him.
So yeah, we know how this fight plays out pretty much. If Mickey Gall wins, it's because he's on the floor. He's a brown belt. He has really nice jiu-jitsu. I think if you look at all of his last 4 or 5 wins, they're all by rear naked choke. One of them was against CM Punk, so obviously you don't even count that.
One was against Mike Jackson too,
and Mike Jackson, yeah. Count. So you take those 2 away. So yeah, he's actually 1-1 in the UFC instead. Yeah,
and his win is against Sage Northcutt.
Yeah, well.
So again,
you want
super
to take that
Sage.
One away too?
Yeah, does he have a win in the UFC? I get it. Sage is legit. Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
So yeah, if Mickey wins, he's taking it to the mat, and he subs Diego. If we get into round 2 and 3, Mickey's failed. Diego's keeping it on the feet. Diego's most likely scoring more on the feet. Having said that, I did see in Mickey Gall's last fight, there was some improvements in his stand-up. For the few seconds it was there was some improvements. He looked fairly good on the feet before it hit the mat. But yeah, I took Nordiv in the Czech Republic, massive underdog against Michel Praceres. I'm going to go out there and give Diego Sanchez the benefit of the doubt and say he keeps this standing and he wins a decision. I could be wrong, but I'm going to go ahead and take Diego Sanchez.
Yeah, all right. I will be breaking down Mickey Gall. He is 5-1, as we said, with 5 rear naked chokes. He's beat Sage Northcutt and George Sullivan in his last few wins. Mm-hmm. He had 1 loss, and it came to Randy Brown, where he was physically overwhelmed and manhandled. I felt he really he was trying things like throwing elbows and throwing up submissions that he just was nowhere near. So maybe he came in a little overconfident, but Randy Brown just physically seemed to overwhelm him. But first off, I just want to give props to Mickey Gall. I love that he called out Diego Sanchez right after the fight. I completely agree with his idea of going for a fight like this. It's a high-profile fight. It's a fight that if he wins, it really leads him to some bigger fights quickly, which just seems to be his focus from how he got into the UFC, calling out, CM Punk, to calling out Sage Northcutt, to now calling out Diego Sanchez. He's looking for his easiest way to get to better fights, to be frank with you. But the Randy Brown fight definitely showed that you can overwhelm Gall by crowding him, by implementing a lot of physical strength, and by just, not giving him space to breathe, like I said. Mm-hmm. And I think Gall's really going to have to show he's improved the stand-up even more than he did in the last fight. He has shown he can kind of catch a guy, and then he'll go to his comfort, which is grappling, which is fine. But I think if his stand-up hasn't massively improved here, I see Diego overwhelming him for 15 minutes, pushing him against the fence, hitting him, very similar to the Craig White performance. Yeah. I think that would... and I'm not sure if Gall has much to get in the way of that. And looking at the odds, I'm shocked at how much of a favorite Gall is. Okay. I'm going to take Diego here. I think Gall has to show me he can win a fight without getting a sub before I'm going to pick him to win a fight without getting the sub. And Diego Sanchez, I don't know if you mentioned this or not, has 0 submission losses in his career.
That's true.
So
And only
you know,
three TKO losses out of over 30 fights. Only 3. I mean, he's taken some damage in those years, of course, but to only be knocked out or TKO'd 3 times, and I believe one of them was actually a doctor stoppage. So it's fair play once again for Diego Sanchez.
And the odds for this fight are with Mickey Gall, and they opened at -260. They've shifted towards Mickey to -350.
That's way overpriced.
Yeah, I'm really surprised here. Diego Sanchez a +265 dog. I'm going to be happily putting money on that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I see Diego getting the win here. I think that he has to avoid giving up his back, which I don't think has happened a whole lot of times to Diego. And even if it gets there, he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and not going to be easily submitted. So one way I could see Mickey honestly winning is if his stand-up's really improved and catching him on the feet, actually. But I think if Mickey goes in there and just tries to grapple some more, I don't know if that's going to be successful against Diego. I think Diego may have the better of that exchange. So I like this match. I like this matchup for both guys. Actually, I think this is a smart fight for Gall to call out. It's just I'm not sure if he has the tools and game plan to win it. So
fair play. Okay, so moving on to Cody Stamann versus Alejandro Perez, and I'll let you take it away with Perez.
All right, Mr. Alejandro Turbo Perez, which very apt nickname for the guy. 21-6 with 9 TKOs and 5 submissions. He's 6-1-1 in the UFC, which I was kind of surprised about. And he's won his last 4, beating Eddie Wineland, Matthew Lopez, Yuri Alcantara, and Andre Soccermom. So this guy's quietly been putting together a pretty impressive resume in the octagon, and I really do mean that. I was shocked to find out he's 6-1-1, and he's got super solid boxing, and he's really quick with it. And his hands are very quick. Doesn't implement a whole lot of kicks, but does use some takedowns to go with it. And I overall just has a really solid MMA game. I think this is really a good overall MMA matchup here against Stamann. I expect Stamann, he's going to push for this fight to get to the ground, and I think that he's going to look to use his wrestling early and often, and I think Perez has to stay on his bike, and I just think he has a few more ways to win. I wouldn't be surprised if Perez takes down Stamann. And I think we haven't seen Stamann off his back too much in his career. I do think both these guys are 2 of the most underrated in the division. I think this is a close fight, close fight. I'm going to take Alejandro Perez to get a decision, but it's close. So
okay,
I'll take Perez for a decision.
Fair play. Okay, so Cody Stamann comes into this fight 3-1 inside the UFC. Wins over Terry Moore, Tom Ducamore, and Brian Caraway. His loss also came to Aljamain Sterling, who when I pick against Aljamain Sterling, I always lose. But not when I picked Marlon Moraes. That was nice. That head kick was. Oh, it made me so happy. Okay, so this fight is striker versus grappler. I like both guys. I really believe in Alejandro Perez, and I really believe in Cody Stamann.
Same here.
The 4 people you named on Perez's win list, I took Perez in all 4 of those. Cody Stamann, I've been taking him in the UFC pretty much every fight. So, you know, it's my boy versus my boy here. So it's always hard to pick when you believe in both guys. But I always make a prediction. I see this, obviously, you know, if Cody is standing with Alejandro for the majority, I see Perez, you know, getting a decision win. If I see Cody taking down Perez often, then we know who wins the decision. I think if it goes into the 2nd and 3rd round, I feel Perez has his back to the fence a little too much when he's circling. if Cody can keep the pressure on, the forward pressure, I see him getting the takedown more than not. So for that reason purely, I'm going to give Cody the decision win. I just think he's going to keep Perez...
You said Corey, right?
Yeah, Cody. Yeah.
Cody, yeah, okay. I just couldn't hear you for a second.
I think he gets the decision win purely down to forward pressure. If he can keep that pressure on the second and third round, I just think Perez, he circles nice and he has nice boxing, but I just think he finds himself too close to the fence, and Cody's going to obviously love that. So, yeah, I'm going to take Cody. I'm going to take him via decision, but it's a real close one, and, you know, I don't blame you for taking Perez because it is that close. It's that close on paper and in the octagon. This is going to be close. So, yeah, I'm going to take Cody.
I mean, just going along with kind of what you said with it, if it's standing, I see Perez winning a decision if the majority of it's standing. If it's Stamann wrestling, then it's going to be Stamann, obviously, I think. But I also think there's the third option of Perez wrestling, and I think that is possible if he's able to surprise him on the feet a little bit and surprise him with the takedown.
Yes.
Then we have not seen Stamann's defensive wrestling other than against Sterling where he struggled. So wrestlers on their back are not the same. So that is kind of going along my lines of why I was picking Perez, is he just has a few more ways to win an MMA fight. I see this going to distance either way. I don't see either guy getting finished here.
Nice.
So,
and what are the odds?
Yeah. It opened at plus 115 to minus 155 for Stamann. Shifted to minus 195 for Stamann.
Oh, that's a little steep. I think that's a little steep.
Plus 140 for Perez.
The opening sounded about right. He should be like a minus 150 the most for Cody. But yeah, man, that's if you believe in Perez a lot, and I really do, but I believe in Cody too. So it's a really hard pick. But if you believe in Perez a bit more than Cody, then definitely put that in a small double, like Perez and Jones or Perez and whoever else, because those are really nice odds for Perez, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, Perez has been an underdog in quite a few of his fights here in the UFC. So he's comfortable in that position. But he hasn't quite faced a guy who could wrestle like Stamann also. So it's a good fight.
It's a great fight, man. Okay, so
most of these fights have been really excellent so far, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
really good matchups.
Okay, so Misha Cirkunov versus Johnny Walker is our next fight.
This is a great fight.
And I'll be taking it away with Johnny. Okay, so Johnny Walker comes into this fight 2-0 inside the UFC. And once again, on UFC Addicts, we're breaking down Johnny Walker. He debuted in the UFC 14 weeks ago. And now he's
from Dana White's Contender Series, by the way.
Amazing. Now he's on to his third fight. I said this last podcast. I said this guy is on a fast track to the title, and I really do believe that. So we're here breaking him down again. He obviously won his last fight, and he won it in 15 seconds. It wasn't even close. It was just, wow, Johnny Walker's here again to make us laugh with some funny faces, and look at that finish. You know, it was nearly a legal strike as well, but it didn't land that kick.
Thank God it didn't land.
Thank God. Okay, so Misha Cirkunov versus Johnny Walker. In the UFC's credit, this is a good step up from Justin Ledet, obviously. If Misha wins, we know it's, you know, there's going to be some wrestling, maybe a sub, maybe he takes Johnny's back. I don't see Misha Cirkunov clipping Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker is very quick. He's very athletic. And from what we saw in his debut against Khalil Roundtree, that tie clinch, he is so strong. He is so strong and so quick. I don't give Misha much chance. I know at one point Misha had a lot of hype around him, and then we saw...
Boy, did he.
Yeah, you know, when he gets hit and he doesn't know it's coming, it's, you know, he just crumbles. So yeah, could I see Misha winning a decision or getting a sub? Yes, because it's Misha Cirkunov, you know, he could do that. But I definitely see Johnny Walker coming out of this third fight within 10 minutes, if that, having a TKO win. So yeah, I'm going to take Johnny Walker. I predicted Justin Ledet to be able to make it out of the first round against Johnny Walker. I'm going to give Misha the same respect. I think this goes out of the first. Having said that, Johnny Walker can just clip Misha within 30 seconds and it's done. But yeah, I'm going to take Johnny Walker, round 2, TKO.
All right, fair enough. I will be breaking down Misha Cirkunov, 13-4 with 4 TKOs and 7 submissions. He's 4-2 in the UFC, with 2 of those losses coming by way of punches in a row to Glover Teixeira and Volkan Ozdemir. The Ozdemir one was very quick too. Mm-hmm. It was with a close punch and a close shot in the clinch too, which I think could play a pretty big factor here. I think we may see another elbow clinch KO perhaps out of Johnny Walker, but we'll see. Misha has wins over Nikita Krylov, probably is his best one, and Jan Kutalaba. Mm-hmm. Both guys are pretty decent at 205, and he had a lot of hype at one point for sure. But he hadn't fought nearly a year before he came back and got a quick submission win over Pat Cummings. Mm-hmm. So that didn't really prove if his chin's back or not. What it did show is that if Misha goes in there with the sole focus of grappling and crushing your neck, he has a good success rate of doing that. I mean, Cummings is a good wrestler, and Cirkunov had no problem getting him down there. And at one point, like I said, Misha was one of the scariest up-and-comers in the division. That now belongs to Walker. So Walker is now that scary up-and-comer coming up against Misha Cirkunov. And like I said, Cirkunov has crushing submissions, good strength, and he's more than capable. But on the feet, that's where I have some doubts, both with regards to his durability and his offensive output. I do think this is a good opportunity for Walker to showcase his skills. It's a classic matchup here of striker and grappler. Mm-hmm. But I think the grappler may believe he can strike a little bit, and that's going to be a problem if he does. I think if Misha doesn't try to just get this down immediately, I think he's going to have some trouble. I'm actually going to take Walker for a first-round TKO. Nice. But just because I think Walker's going to be very aware of the threat of the submission. And Walker has lost fights in the past to solid ground fighters by submission before he was in the UFC. So I think he'll go in there with a little bit of urgency and respect for Misha. So, and I just am not sure Misha's going to be able to take those shots from close in the clinch. Misha's shown he has a little bit of a issue with those shots. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm going to take Johnny Walker for a first round TKO. But if this gets to the ground for Misha, it gets interesting quick. And I think Misha could get a first round submission. Yep. I'm not sure this one's getting out of the first round either way, to be honest with you. I think if Misha gets this down to the ground, he will look to snatch up an arm triangle very quickly or something. Mm-hmm. Something where he can just, use that strength and really look to crush that long neck of Walker. And Walker's shown a propensity in the past to leave himself open for the submission. So this is not, I think, the slam dunk everybody thinks it is. Walker's coming in on short notice, too, I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure how much weight he cuts, though, to get to 205, but that's a lot of weight cuts in a small amount of time. And even if he's not taking damage, that's damage to your body. Don't let anybody fool you otherwise. Mm-hmm. So, and what are the odds? It's a close one. Walker is minus 135.
Oh, okay.
Misha at plus 115. I think that when you look at some of Walker's past, he's had some trouble with submission grapplers in the past, and Misha did have those 2 losses in a row, but he came back and basically blew the doors off Cummins with his grappling. If he goes in there and is just like, you know what, I'm not trying to trade anymore, I'm just trying to get in there, grab a hold of you, and snatch your neck. Mm-hmm. If he goes in there, he could very well do that against Walker. So I'm a big fan of these odds, actually. Yeah, I really glad not to see Walker coming in at like minus 300 or something. Mm-hmm. Actually, I
really thought it would be closer to that. I really thought you was about to say Walker minus 200, 210. But yeah, people are really looking at basically what you've just said. You know, Walker's third fight now in 14 weeks, third weight cut. And Misha
These are
Cirkunov
all compounding factors. And he also won in 15 seconds. That doesn't make him believe less in his stand-up. And if he gets taken down, that stand-up's irrelevant.
Yep. Interesting.
So, yeah, I think this is one that when you first hear it, as a lot of people, heard it, I was like, oh, God, Misha's dead, first round. And even my pick still, I'm picking Johnny Walker for the first round KO. But in no way do I think Misha getting a submission in the first round is out of the realm of possibility at all. Nikita Krylov was also a very threatening guy at 205 and had a lot of crazy strikes, elbow strikes, and impressive finishes outside the UFC. Now, Walker's done his inside the UFC, but how UFC caliber is Justin Ledet?
That definitely wasn't a step up. So that's why I give UFC credit here, because
this is a giant step up.
Yeah, this is legit.
This is a giant step up. And after this, there's nothing but the top of the division for Walker if he wins this fight.
Yeah, if Smith loses to John Jones, you know, that's a potential match if Walker can win this. And then, you know, I don't want to give a prediction now, but I'm really behind Walker. So, you know, the odds are a bit surprising, but it kind of plays in my favor because Walker is definitely going in my parlays, for sure.
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah, that's good. You got to trust your breakdown, and you know, you got to trust what you see here. But you know, it's just MMA is a fickle game. Guys like Diego Sanchez and Misha Cirkunov,
Nordiv,
really, it's just like these guys are counted out, and then you never know. So
moving on.
I like that fight a lot, though. Actually, that's a good one.
Okay, so moving on to Jeremy Lil Heathen Stevens versus Zabit, or as I like to say, Zabeast Magomedsharipov. That was a long one. I just call him Zabeast.
Magomedsharipov. Stop rushing yourself through it.
Beautiful.
Yep,
I'll be breaking down Zabeast. He comes into this fight 4-0 inside the UFC. A real prospect in the division. 3 of his 4 wins coming by submission. I was at his decision win, which was in New York, and that fight against Karl Bochniak was just amazing. I believe it went down top 5 best fights last year. So yeah, Zabeast. How does he win? How does he lose? How does he lose first? Okay, so Jeremy Stevens is very aggressive. If there's one guy you don't want to be clipped by at 145, it's Jeremy Stevens. So that's pretty much the only way I see Zabit losing this fight. I see him winning the stand-up battle. I see him winning the grappling exchanges. I can see him getting takedown after takedown if that's what he wants. I can see him submitting Jeremy. I can see him catching him with a body kick, head kick, a body shot like Aldo did. I see Zabit winning this pretty much any way he wants to win. I am massively behind this guy. This guy is a real prospect for 145. But yeah, the way he loses is Jeremy Stevens hits very hard. Jeremy Stevens can be very aggressive. And, you know, he even said it, when I hit guys, they don't move. And it's true. They, you know, we see him get TKO after TKO, and they are brutal. So, is that a possibility here? Of course it is. It's MMA, anything can happen. We've seen that. We see that every week, nearly. But yeah, how can you pick against Zabit? Unless you know, just want to try to do like the Ronda Rousey effect kind of thing, where you're just betting against the prospect every time they fight in a hope that you get those underdog odds and you get the right pick at the right time, a little bit like when Holly Holm head kicked Ronda Rousey. Whoever had money on Holly Holm that night, fair play. But that, you know, I don't bet like that. I really just bet on what I believe will happen. And Zabit for me is just so impressive. So I'm going to take a round 2 submission for Zabit.
All right, fair enough. I will be breaking down Jeremy Lil Heathen Stevens. He is 28-15 with 19 TKOs and a few subs, but he's in there to bang. Stevens was on a 4-fight win streak prior to getting stopped by Aldo with a body shot. So just seems like every time this guy builds a lot of momentum and is about to take that step to upper echelon, he stumbles. He's playing the role of gatekeeper here in this fight with the prospect in Zabit. I think we all know, like I said, how Stevens is going to win this fight or try to win this fight, and he's going to try to come out and make it a brawl. I think that we saw with Bochniak that's very possible, especially as the fight progresses, that Zabit will be willing to participate in that. I think he'd be smart to not do that. I think what Zabit should be doing in this fight is implementing that wrestling and looking for a submission, because that's where he is going to outshine Stevens the most, and that's where I see him being able to get the finish. So, Stevens fought the who's who at 145 and 155. So but Zabit is the new generation of MMA, and this is just a young lion beating an old lion in Stevens, I think. But if Zabit goes in there and just thinks he can trade and not get hurt, I think that he could end up getting KO'd by him. But I don't see that happening. I see a submission or a dominant decision for Zabit. I think that if Zabit can submit him, I think that'd be particularly impressive. But I think most likely it will be a decision. So I will take Zabit as well by decision.
Nice. And what are the odds?
I imagine, let's see. Rather than imagining, I'll tell you them, and it's minus 250 for Zabit. So plus 195 for Jeremy Stevens.
Okay. I thought it would be a bit higher than minus 250, but
yeah,
it's Jeremy Stevens. He's very aggressive and he hits very hard. He can finish anyone at 145. So I see how that's only minus 250. So it's fair in some way.
Well, I love adding Zabit to my parlays at that price.
Yeah, I'm with you. So moving on. 2.
Yeah.
Unless you have anything to say about that one.
No, that's all I got to say about that fight. It's a good fight, though.
It is really nice. Okay, so Cody, No Love Garbrandt versus Pedro Munhoz. And I'll let you take it away with No Love.
All right, Mr. Cody No Love Garbrandt, finally out of his 2-year relationship with TJ Dillashaw, in which they only fought each other twice. He finally gets to move on, and but it's yet to see what physical and mental Cody will now show up. Before the TJ fights, he had some of the best footwork in the division. It's what won him the title. And he did have some success with TJ, particularly in the first fight. But he's really was loading up and looking for the KO. And I don't think that's what got him. I mean, he did get some KOs along his way to getting the title, but it was his footwork, it was his composure, and his overall game plan and boxing that really got him the title, not just his pure power. I look to see a much more composed Cody in this fight. But again, we have to see if physically he's recovered from his injuries. I think he had a bad back and a few other injuries that he's been dealing with for a few years now. And now he has potentially a compromised chin from TJ Dillashaw. So, we got to see, and I think this is a really tough fight for Cody against Pedro Munhoz. I think that if Cody wants to win this fight, he's got to go back to fighting similarly to how he did against Dominic Cruz. Really looking to set up his shots and avoid getting into firefight, and avoid exposing himself to possibly being taken down or leg kicks from Pedro Munhoz. I think Munhoz is able to mix it up as the fight goes on. But I think that overall, I think that Cody will rebound here and be able to hold his own on the feet. And I think he'll just end up taking a decision. Maybe he'll look to show off a little bit of wrestling at some point too. But I think Cody gets the decision here over Pedro.
Okay, nice. Pedro Munhoz comes into this fight 7-3 inside the UFC. His most notable wins coming over Rob Font, Brett Johns, and Brian Caraway. His 3 losses, all to high-level competition. Yeah, this is another fight that's a really nice fight stylistically. Both guys bring different tools to this fight. Pedro Munhoz will have the grappling, the jiu-jitsu, even the leg kicks, in my opinion. And I pretty much agree with you. Cody Garbrandt is going to have the crisper boxing. And usually, from what we've seen with Cody, is the footwork and movement is always on point. Not against TJ, obviously, but we know how unorthodox TJ is in his movement, in his stance switching. Very unorthodox. Pedro Munhoz isn't going to be that. But having said that, Pedro Munhoz can switch it up, like you said. The leg kicks, I do see him getting a takedown if Cody does throw any leg kicks or body kicks. It is a really tough fight for me to pick because I like Pedro Munhoz and I picked Cody twice against TJ. So I feel like I'm contradicting myself if I don't pick Cody, but styles make fights. And I really believe Pedro Munhoz can get a few takedowns in this fight. If he can brutalize Cody's legs when Cody's coming forward, I do see Cody having problems when it gets to like round 3, if it can go that far. But yeah, we're going to disagree here. We're going to disagree. I'm going to take Pedro Munhoz. I just think those leg kicks, the grappling and the takedowns, if he can avoid that crisp boxing from Cody, then I give him a good chance. Having said that, it's not Cody's power that guys crumble to. It's how accurate he is, his timing, and just how technically beautiful his boxing is. So if Cody,
that's why this loading up has been so troubling.
Exactly. If one thing we did find out is Cody cannot fight emotional. You know, when there's a big build-up like he's had in both those fights against TJ, there's loading up. There's been no shit chatting. You know, there's been
zero emotion in this fight. I don't know if you saw their press conference, but they were like complimenting each other's like suits and stuff and like smiling at each other.
So Cody,
the mental game is not a factor here.
Cody could be back to what we know, but I also agree with you at the same time. Is that back injury gone? And how has those 2 TKO losses affecting him? So, for those reasons, and the reasons that Pedro Munhoz has the grappling, jiu-jitsu, leg kicks, and able to switch it up, just for all of those reasons, I'm going to take Pedro Munhoz, but I would not be shocked if we saw Cody return to his former self. So, I'm going to take Pedro by decision.
Yeah, and Team Alpha Male fighters have been shown to have some trouble with leg kicks in the past. So, I mean, there are a lot of different factors that add up to make this seem like this is Munhoz's fight, actually. I just really think that Cody is going to rebound here. And Cody is the favorite at minus 175. So, I think that's it's a little. I think that's exactly where it's supposed to be.
You sure?
I think that's where it's supposed to be. I really do, but maybe not. It opened at minus 205 for Cody.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so, minus 150 would be sounding legit to me. Minus 170, you know, it's fair. I guess it's fair. He's got really nice crisp boxing and the movement. You know, we could just see Cody Garbrandt right back. I don't want to see the breakdancing, though. When we see that in both those TJ fights, look what happened after. Within minutes. Within a minute. Look what...
He doesn't need to worry about looking cool, and I don't think any of that's going to be happening in this fight.
Well, I think in this fight, for the TJ, the second one, and there was.
I did not say that for the second TJ fight.
Yeah, I hope he's not doing that stuff. But it's Cody Garbrandt, and when he finds his rhythm, he could just bust one of those moves out. But whatever. So moving on to Tecia Torres and Weili Zhang. I'll be breaking down Zhang. She comes into this fight 18-1 as a pro, 2-0 inside the UFC. She lost her first fight as a pro. Since then, 18 in a row. She's been pretty impressive in both of her fights in the UFC. Her stand-up looks pretty great. Her groundwork looks as good, if not better. Her grappling is on point. How does Tecia Torres win this fight? I don't really know. I've seen a few people take Tecia Torres. She does have nice takedown defense, but even then, I see her losing a kickboxing battle against Zhang. So, you know, if once again, it's like I said for the Mazany and Chiasson fight. If anyone knows why they're taking Tecia Torres here, then please let me know, because I am massively behind what Zhang is doing. Both of her fights in the UFC, massively impressive. And I just see Tecia Torres being a stepping stone here. So I'm going to take a mandatory 30-27 decision here for Zhang.
Fair enough. I will be breaking down the tiny tornado Tecia Torres. She is 10-3 with a whopping 1 submission finish in her 10 wins. No KOs. So, you know, a little bit of a decision machine, making Jimmy Rivera jealous over here. She's 6-3 in the UFC. She's lost her last 2. However, her last 2 have been to Jessica Andrade and Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So can't really hold those too much against her. It really hurts not to call Joanna champion. But it's so far away now, I really can't call her that. It hurts. Anyways, but like again, Torres is in another super tough fight here against a fighter I'm not sure a lot of people know about yet, in Zhang. But we definitely know about her. She is a favorite on the UFC addicts here. Yeah. If not my favorite female fighter currently. And but enough about Zhang. I'm talking about Torres. She's got good stand-up and good grappling. Overall, just a solid MMA fighter. Again, like really, she's solid everywhere, but doesn't really blow your socks anywhere also. So, you know, she kind of waits for her partner to lead the dance often. Looks to be the counter-striker. I think while she's tough to finish, she hasn't been finished yet in her career. She either goes to decision or takes it to decision. She kind of fights a little bit safe and close often, but I'm also really behind Zhang, and I really like how she's looked so far in the UFC. And I think she's going to look really technical and get a technical, smooth 30-27 decision for Zhang. Yep. I think a lot of people picking Torres. I think this is just my own unscientific opinion, but I think with female fighters often they go with the familiarity a little more than with the males here, and sometimes they kind of get Zhang confused with some other fighters over in Asia. Don't really know who she is. She's been on mostly the China cards so far, so those are a little more hardcore. She's been earlier on in cards. This is why watching the full card is a good idea, besides the fact that you never know when the best fight's going to happen, but you'll get to know a fighter like Zhang when she finally gets onto the main card of a...
And on a pay-per-view. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, they know what they're doing here. Zhang is a real potential star, and she's really good just about everywhere. And something about losing your first fight and then winning 18 in a row that really intrigues me even more. So the odds are, again, spot on odds here. These odds makers are killing it tonight. Minus 135 for Zhang, plus 105 for Torres. Yeah, that's perfect.
It sounds about right. I thought it'd be like a little higher, maybe like a minus 150 or 60 for Zhang, but once again,
I've seen minus 145 on some. I'm seeing minus 145 on some sites.
Yeah, it goes with us because Zhang is definitely in our parlays on this night. Yeah, massively behind that girl.
Yeah, and it pleases me because it was opened as a pick'em, and the money has shifted, albeit slightly, to Zhang. So it makes me happy that the public is becoming a little aware of her. I really am looking forward to that fight, and I think it's a big win for Zhang if she can get it.
Okay, so moving on to Robbie Lawler versus Ben Askren, and I'll be breaking down Robbie Lawler. Okay, so he comes into this fight 9-3 inside the UFC. Previously the welterweight champion, and we pretty much know what Robbie brings to the table in this fight. Most likely an injury that he hasn't said. Extreme heavy hands, and a will not to quit. You know, even if he's getting beat and that knee's gone, he will just stand there until you put him out. So yeah, he's fighting Ben Askren, or should I say, he's going to be wrestling Ben Askren. Now, I've seen a lot of people talking about how oh, Ben Askren, he was wrestling this fight and he couldn't get this guy down. Oh, Ben Askren, he can't strike. Ben Askren, he couldn't do this, he couldn't do
is
that.
the guy.
Yeah, so those are all
One
true.
time.
Yeah, but the bottom line is Ben Askren is like the highest level wrestler you could possibly watch. Like him and like just other great wrestlers like Tyron Woodley. Like his wrestling is just second to none. So,
yeah,
you know, can Robbie Lawler catch him before the wrestling happens? Of course, of course. We just saw that with Cain Velasquez and Francis Ngannou. You know, a lot of people predicted that for Conor and Khabib. Of course, there's a legit chance Robbie Lawler hits Ben Askren before Ben can get a hold of him. Of course. But does that happen? And my answer is no. Again, Ben Askren is going to get the takedown within 60 seconds. I'm very confident in that. And if he doesn't get the first takedown, the second takedown, he's going to get a takedown. I see him piecing up Robbie on the floor. I see Robbie turning, giving his back up, and Ben sinking in a nice rear naked choke inside the first round. So I'll take Ben Askren via submission in round number 1.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I will be breaking down Ben Funky Askren. He is 18-0 with 6 TKOs and 5 submissions. Askren's finally making his debut here, and I honestly think this is one of the toughest matchups in the division he could have. Between the fact that he doesn't have a guy to, you know, go into a mental warfare with, which is part of Ben Askren's game. He's got a guy who hits hard. He's got a guy who's a pretty decent wrestler, but Askren isn't just a decent wrestler. Askren is one of the best wrestlers to ever fight in MMA with how he's been able to implement it. And Funky being his nickname, he is funky. He just gets in there, gets a hold of a body part, and just tries to take you down however he can. And when he doesn't take you down, he tries again. And the fight everybody can talk about all they want is the fight against Luis Sapao, where he had one round where he struggled to get a takedown, got hit with a few shots, and most of those shots were eye pokes that ended up stopping the fight early, causing it to be a no contest. That's the one fight in 19 fights people will point to. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think that Askren knows what he wants to go in there and do. Lawler knows what he wants to go in there and do, and that doesn't matter. And pretty much Askren has had no trouble taking basically no damage in his career. He is one of the best defensive fighters you'll ever see. He just goes in there and tries not to get hit, and he'll admit it. He has no problem doing that. There's no part of him that feels that, I need to stand up and prove my worth over my grappling. He can stand, but he doesn't need to, and he won't, and he's not going to in this fight. And I think the second that Ben wraps him up, he takes him down. I don't think he's going to have to go for multiple takedowns, but he may have to chain a few together in a row to get a takedown. But I just think once he gets a hold of him, he's stuck on him, and he's going to take him down and keep him there. And I see him locking in submission in the first round as well. And, yeah, I'm not sure if it will be a rear naked choke or what it will be, but I'll take a first round submission as well. And I see him getting on the mic afterwards and either calling out Khabib at 165 or calling out Colby Covington, who all of a sudden has gone MIA from the UFC, and I don't seem to hear from very much anymore. But yeah, we agree with Ben Askren here. And
the odds?
Take a look at the odds. I'm interested to see these. Askren minus 280.
It sounds legit to me. Minus 250.
Plus
280.
Plus 220 for Robbie Lawler. Minus 280 for Robbie. Or for Ben, sorry. Yeah, I think those are pretty spot on. They opened at minus 320 for Askren, so
yeah,
a little bit of money.
That even sounds legit to me, like minus 3 on the night. I'm really behind Ben Askren, man. His wrestling is so good. If anyone believes Lawler can catch him before the wrestling or somehow survive the wrestling, take a shot at it. But Yeah,
I
Ben Askren,
I
man.
love that he didn't back down from the toughest matchup probably for him in this division. So the fact that he was willing to go with the guy who's not going to get you a ton of publicity, who's going to be a really tough fight, who will hit hard, who can wrestle. I mean, there's not. I think he passes this test at 170. Who's going to beat him at 170 besides Woodley, who won't fight him?
Nice. So, okay, so moving on to, in my opinion,
co-main event.
The co-main, but really the main event on this night.
Sure.
We have Tyron Woodley versus Kamaru Usman, and I'll let you take it away with the chosen one.
Oh, so we're going to start with the champ because I'm going last in the real main event. So Tyron, the chosen one, Woodley. He is 19-3-1, fights out of HET, and also fights out of course, Rufus Sport. So I believe he fights out of Rufus Sport. Am I wrong there?
I don't believe so.
Yeah. So, maybe I'm completely wrong, but, so he's 9-2-1 in the UFC. He has 7 KOs and 5 submissions in those wins. And, basically he's coming off of a perfect performance against Till, dropping him in the second, then locking up the darts, finishing Till, and, basically looking like one of the best guys to ever do it at 170. And I think that continues to get a lack of respect, but it's getting better. People are starting to recognize how truly kind of impressive and amazing this guy really is. And he basically fights the fighter. He does not come in with the same game plan, hardly ever. He comes in with a game plan adjusted to that fighter. And that's, I think, one of the more impressive parts about Woodley and his overall game plans is that he tailors them to who he's fighting. So he's coming into a fight here against a powerful wrestler, a similar guy to him, guy with good cardio. A lot of ways a mirror of Woodley, younger Woodley, a lot of people are saying. I think that Woodley is going to really focus on his conditioning going into this fight, knowing that he's probably going to go a lot of hard rounds of grappling. I think this could be a lot. There could be a lot of wrestling in this one. And I think it may frustrate some fans. And I do think that mentally and just game plan wise, that's where Woodley is just so superior to Usman. And as much as I want to possibly take Usman, I think he has a really good chance here. I just can't take against Woodley. And I think Woodley could possibly get one of those underappreciated decisions where people say he did nothing and he should have done more to try to finish the fight, and Woodley's just concerned with winning the fight and going on to his next one. So I don't see a finish happening either way. And as much as, I don't think it's going to be a bad fight, I wouldn't be surprised if at points the Vegas crowd is booing them.
Okay.
And so I think it's a really good fight, close fight, but I'm going to take Woodley to get a decision.
Nice. Okay, so Kamaru Usman comes into this fight 8-0 inside the UFC. His notable wins come over Leon Edwards, Warley Alves, Sean Strickland, Emil Meek, Damian Maia, and RDA. Those are 6 notable names out of his 8 wins. Now, fun fact, Kamaru Usman's lowest price ever inside the octagon has been a -200. So, all of those names, he's above -200 against all of them. He has beautiful, strong wrestling. He can be explosive, just like Tyron Woodley. He hits just as hard, like Woodley. So here's the difference in my eyes. I believe that Kamaru Usman is more athletic, and I believe he has better conditioning. We see Tyron Woodley in those 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. He is a much slower guy. And I just believe Kamaru Usman has everything Tyron Woodley has. But I believe he's conditioned better and he's more athletic. He throws head kicks. He's very athletic. Having said that, Tyron Woodley is great. I took Tyron Woodley twice against Wonderboy. I took Tyron Woodley against Maya. I took him against Darren Till. I take Tyron Woodley a lot, and I really appreciate and respect Tyron Woodley. However, I really do believe that we are looking at mini Woodley on the other side. Kamaru Usman is the modern day Tyron Woodley. He is miniature Woodley. So yeah, I'm going to take Kamaru Usman by decision. I just see him having a little bit more success in the 3rd, 4th and 5th round. Tyron Woodley can catch him at any point. Kamaru Usman can catch Woodley at any point. You know, so if I'm wrong in this pick, I don't feel bad being wrong because I really respect and appreciate Tyron Woodley. Having said that, styles make fights, and here he is fighting mini Woodley, the modern day Woodley, and I just believe now we see and the new. So I'm going to take Kamaru Usman to take that 170 strap via decision.
All right. And we look at the odds here, and it's a pretty close, but I think you're going to feel it should be closer. Minus 190 for Tyron.
Wow. What's Kamaru?
So plus 165.
That's
plus
insane.
150, plus 155 on some.
So like I said,
that's a 350 point shift.
Minus 2 or above in every single one of his fights, and now he's a plus 160. That's crazy to me.
Against a guy who was an underdog against Darren Till in his last fight.
A guy who was basically an underdog twice against Wonderboy, I believe.
I'm not sure, but yeah,
wow.
Definitely this is the most he's been a favorite in a fight in a while.
Okay, so let's move on. Main event.
It's a close one, but I am fine to disagree. I believe that's our 3rd disagreement? Second? Fourth, okay, wow.
So yeah,
right.
I believe we're going to finish on 4 here, but we don't know with your picks.
Well,
Black Magic, so.
I'm going to keep the Black Magic to myself till the 2nd pick here. So go ahead and introduce our main event.
Okay, so we have John Bones Jones versus Anthony Lionheart Smith, and I'll be breaking down Smith. Okay, so he comes into this fight 7-3 inside the UFC. A journeyman. He spent most of his career at 185. He's moved up to 205 and he's 3-0 at 205, sorry. I was at his fight in Germany against Shogun. Really nice performance, starched him. I took him that night. I took him against Rashad Evans, obviously. I took him against Volkan Ozdemir as well, so I believe he was a dog that night. Can I take him against John Jones? No. No chance. Most people are, you know, they see the odds and they're like, wow, those, you know, John Jones should be the favourite, but wow, those odds are insane, and I have seen them. I really disagree. I think the odds are spot on. I think, obviously, Anthony Smith has a chance. Everyone has a chance, right? But I see John's beating him everywhere. Literally everywhere. Movement, boxing, kicking, grappling, on the ground. I don't see Smith winning anywhere. So, you know, for me, it's a puncher's chance for Anthony Smith, or somehow he makes it to the 4th and 5th round, and John Jones is a little tired, maybe an OSP performance, and we see Smith nick those last 2 rounds, and there's some split or close decision for Anthony Smith. But I don't see that. I don't even see him making it to the 3rd. I think John Jones' movement is amazing. I think his kicking game is the best in the UFC. We talk about Barboza with his kicks. I believe John Jones has the best kicking game in the UFC. He goes low, he goes to the knee, calf, body. He'll switch it up to the head, and he'll keep you constantly guessing with his movement which kick am I which kick have I got to defend, because you can't check a low kick and cover your head and protect the body. His kicking game is just brilliant. So like I said, Anthony Smith, you know, eat your heart out, you know, good luck to you. But I'm taking John Jones via TKO in the 2nd.
All right. I will be breaking down John Bones Jones. He's 23-1 now, with that one loss being one of his most impressive finishes, honestly. But they DQ'd him for it, so whatever. I mean, what can you say about Jones? In the octagon, he's one of the best to ever do it. Outside the octagon, he's one of the worst to ever do it. Not ever, but you know what I mean. He's beat everyone. He's beat from Machida to Vitor to Gus twice to Cormier twice. And it's just, again, outside the octagon that seems to cost him. And now that he's had, the rematch from his most closely contested fight of his career, I mean, he just continues to pass every tough test after another, other than the PED test. So hopefully he doesn't have any trouble with that. But I think that the only thing we can hope for from Smith's end is that he has an OSP type of performance. I mean, Smith has a puncher's chance. There's no question Smith has a big will to win, has a huge heart. It's not about that. On paper, what you need to beat Jones is puncher's chance or, a striker's chance. I think there's a lot of different strikes Smith could hit him with that could finish him, not just a punch. But a striker's chance and absolute heart and belief in yourself, which Smith has, but it's just not going to be enough here. And Smith's going to go for it. I think that may result in him putting himself in harm's way even quicker in some ways. And I looked for Jones to get a submission finish, and I'll say second round submission finish for Jones. I can't pick Smith here. I'd love to see it happen, though. I love the chaos, and but also I love to see greatness, and that's what we're seeing with John Jones. And I think John Jones doesn't let Anthony Smith get to the championship rounds. I think this is a great rise by Anthony Smith and very impressive and everything like that. And with all due respect to him, but this is John Jones here. So
let me ask you, who was the biggest favorite on this card?
Oh, yeah. Well, it turns out it's John Jones at minus 1375.
Wow. So my best piece of advice to anyone
plus 900 for Anthony Smith.
My best piece of advice to anyone listening, if you've made it this far in the podcast and you watch these for breakdowns for betting, my best piece of advice to you is take your parlays, make a few of them. Don't make them massive parlays, 3, 4, 5 man. Take them and end them all with John Jones. Put John Jones as the 4th man in all your parlays, or the 5th man, or the 6th man. Because what you're doing there is, like I explained, I didn't do this on podcast with you, Brooks. I've done a voiceover before. Like I explained at the start of this episode, you can have parlays going into the main event, and you can still make profit with the wrong pick. It just all matters down to how many parlays have lost and how many parlays are alive in the main event. So if you've got 4 or 5 parlays and your last guy to come in is John Jones, we see Anthony Smith at plus 900. You can cover that beautifully and always make profit. So end your parlays with John Jones. And thank you for everyone listening. I've enjoyed this breakdown once again with you, Brooks. Las Vegas pay-per-view card.
Good, awesome breakdown.
And we're going to be back again next week with the Derek Lewis Dos Anjos, I believe. Yep.
We got some good fights on that one, including Elizu Dos Santos fighting Curtis Melender. So watch out for that fight. But that's 8 straight wins for Elizu coming into that one at welterweight, and no one knows who he is. So, but thank you everybody for listening. We appreciate all the comments, all the messages, everything. All the feedback. We appreciate everybody listening, the likes, the dislikes. We appreciate it all.
No dislikes on our last breakdown. 30 likes, 0 dislikes. So
yeah, exactly. Knock on wood. But if we got the dislikes, we appreciate the feedback, and we
appreciate all of you.
We appreciate all of you. We're going to be doing this, like I said. We're never missing a week. So if we miss a week, this podcast will be no more. So don't bother listening the next week if we miss a week.
Yes.
So
that we won't miss a week.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been real, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, and enjoy the fights.
Yep. Peace out, guys.